we need to consider why this is important. Why is it important that we investigate this? Why not just wait until the investigations play out?
Well, I think everybody wants to know what happened, and a lot of what the investigation is going to show, well, we don't know what it's going to show, and we don't know when it's going to show it or how deep it's going to go into some of these issues that we want to look at. And, you know, we have a building that's standing up there that looks like it's melting in the middle of downtown New Orleans, and I think people would like to know what happened that killed 3 workers on that site.
Right, and I think it has bigger implications for construction projects like it all over the world. You know, they want to learn from the mistakes that may have been made here.
That's right, and that's kind of the motivation. Our expert that we consulted, Mike Lincoln, I mean, that's his motivation for looking at all these documents and making the observations he's made that he can make so far, which is he wants to know what happened. He wants to be able to share it so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and he's being very careful about, very measured in his analysis and trying to make sure that he's got every document possible, and we were sharing those documents with him.
That's right, and he doesn't want to draw conclusions now because he doesn't have the documents he says he needs, and that's part of the story, is that those documents that he says he needs to really understand what they were building up there on those upper floors are not available in the public documents that we've received from the city.
Yeah. Why was it that you contacted him? What was it about him that drew you to him?
I was looking for somebody who was an independent expert in concrete. He's got decades of experience in that, and you know, he is a leader in the organizations that watch these things and that look at how the building codes, the local building codes, are put together around how concrete is supposed to be built up, and in this case with steel.
Yeah. He was, I think, the past president multiple times of the Capital chapter of the American Concrete Institute, which actually sets the standards for the use of concrete.
That's right. He knows his concrete.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of questions about this after looking through all these documents.
One of the things that we can look at is how they changed the plans in the middle in multiple instances.
The structure itself changed, as we found out. Sometime between 2017 and 2018, what was a 17-floor fully concrete structure changed. It was still concrete at the up to the 8th floor mezzanine kind of area, but then it became a concrete and steel structure. As we know, we don't quite know the rationale for that. We do know they went up 1 story from 17 floors to 18 floors. So that was a change that was documented in all of these records.
Right. There's not necessarily anything wrong with doing that, and they notified the proper authorities on that. But there's some other things where they appear to have not notified the authorities.
That's right. And one of the things that we found is the decking. This is the kind of corrugated metal pans that hold the concrete when it's poured in to make the floors. And they're held up by these posts that, while they're drying, have come into question. The pans that they're using are different than the pans that they put in with their permit information. They never updated the city on their change of plans with this decking.
Yeah, and there's actually requirements in the city code to do that, right? When you make a change that's material to the structure, you actually have to get approval ahead of time from the Director of Safety and Permits.
That's right. That's what the regulations say.
Yeah.
Whether this is the kind of change that people got away with before, very possible. How vigilant the city was on that, we don't know.
Well, I understand that the city is actually trying still to get documents that would have indicated that change, which is disconcerting at this point in the game, don't you think?
Yes, indeed. And so the question is all around the metal decking is, what happens when you change, and what does that mean for supports? What does that mean for how much concrete you pour in there? And did the contractors account for all of that? We don't know that because the documents are not in here.
Well, it's interesting because this document is from 2017 that shows much narrower spans between the columns. And that was when they had filed plans that showed an entirely concrete structure. But this seems to allude to a metal structure, a steel structure on the upper floors. And then you look at the documents that were approved by the city that show much wider spans. I mean, here you're talking about 30 feet here on this corner closer to Iberville Street and North Rampart, and here it's less than half that.
And that's what surprised a lot of the people, the experts and builders and contractors we've spoken with over the past month plus, is these 30-foot spans, and how can you do that? Those are, just people who build these things are surprised that the spans were that wide.
But the interesting thing is that this Versa deck, which is now we've confirmed is what they used, is designed for those wider spans. So they went with the product that was better for wider spans, but that's not what they notified the city they were going to use.
That's right, and what they did after that to account for that difference in the supports that they were using, that obviously something failed. We don't know.
Yeah, and it's striking to see the differences in these images of the two types. I mean, they are significantly different in their actual.
This is what was permitted.
Yep.
And this is the Versa deck.
Yeah, and these inverted flutes, as they're called, are strikingly different than ones where the grooves and the ridges are the same, basically, on both sides. What that means for what ended up being poured with the concrete, we're not really sure at this point, right?
That's right. Some of this information is contained in shop drawings. These are kind of the sort of devils in the details about how to keep this thing up while it's being built, and what the supports look like in the end, that are going to contain that information, and that's going to be the information that federal investigators are going to be poring over to see how they did things.